Hi there, and welcome back to Sylvia and Peter talking about mental health in general and poor mental health in particular. We are, as you know by now, we're both therapists and we've been around in business for a long time doing other things than looking after people's mental health and well-being. And what's also in common for us is that we are practitioners rather than just someone knowing theory and theory only. So we've been out there where it hurts, we've made our mistakes, we've made our little wins and big wins, and in different organizations, different industries. And talking about business and industry, what we're talking about today is poor mental health being a massive business risk. It seems as if, certainly the feedback I've got when I'm out there selling our services, that no, we haven't got time for this. No, it costs too much. So businesses in general seem to think that they know the cost of looking after the mental health and well-being of their employees, but they do not understand or are not aware of and don't measure the cost of not doing it. And that's where the business risk comes in.
Definitely, and I think there's a lot of organisations that will put their EAPs in place, and you have HR, ER, occupational health, diversity inclusion, quite often working on the curative end, raising awareness through conversations and storytelling, which is fantastic. But there's also an element of mental health being a business risk, not only in terms of costs, but also in terms of brand, reputation, and all those things that go with it. Because from an organisation's point of view, with my business hat on, an organisation, their people, if we look at it quite coldly, their people are their greatest asset, some may say. So we want that asset, those people, to be working at their best. And in my opinion, from being in the business background, business is at risk if our people are not at their best. So if we link it then to, some may say, the definition of mental health from the World Health Organization in terms of decision making and problem solving, just take those two factors. If someone's not at their best in terms of poor mental health, wherever they are on the spectrum, it may just be they're having a bad day, those decisions and those behaviors can change, they can deteriorate, or might not make the best decision, a poor decision, and that's where business is at risk, not only to the cost in terms of financial, but as I say, in brand and reputation, all those things. For example, a deal might come along and someone may be struggling that day for all sorts of reasons. They turn that deal down. Now that may be the deal that's the absolute golden opportunity. Equally, they may say yes to a transaction or to a deal that turns out to be not so good. So you have all that brand and reputation going on there. And that's simply because someone may not be focusing 100% present on the job itself. So you have lots of risk to the business, not just in terms of financial. And I think, again, to your point there, Peter, about the curative end, it's very difficult to measure preventative measures. So in my opinion, so much is put at the curative end, whereas if we were more aware in terms of what mental health means and the impact that can have in our changing behaviours, I think that could raise the profile of mental health or poor mental health in the workplace even more.
Absolutely. What we can measure is something over time.
Yes.
When we put a change in place, we need to give it time to prove one way or the other whether it's actually working or if not. And one of the things that I have certainly measured in the past, in my consultancy days, was rework.
Yes.
There's nothing more expensive, almost, to a business than having to do the same job again.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not being paid for it. So if you're in manufacturing and you have errors coming out at the end of the line and you have to do rework, nobody is paying for that other than your bottom line. So it erodes your financial stability in the business. It takes away your operators from doing new good stuff, and you divert them to redoing what they should have done right first time in the first place. So the same principle of right first time applies in manufacturing and in anything office-based, white collar jobs, as we can call them, it's probably politically incorrect to talk about white collar and blue collar, but it does distinguish.
Well, we're having a conversation. So,
it's not scripted, and you can kill me later. But it doesn't matter what you do in any business. If you do it right the first time, it will not come back to you because you made mistakes. So if you're not able to focus on operating your machine properly, or checking the document properly, or sending the right email to the right person, there's all sorts of things, big and small, that have a huge effect. And we don't see the cost as a withdrawal from the bank account. We see it as loss of business. All of a sudden, suppliers don't want to work with us. All of a sudden, clients have some lame excuse they found somewhere else to go. But actually, it could well be because there wasn't anybody able to or willing to service that client properly.
It's interesting you say that, because what's coming through there is the most effective use of our resources in terms of the resources of our people, i.e. their minds, doing things right first time. Yes, of course, mistakes happen. But at the same time, if our mind is on the job, we use these colloquial phrases so often, and yet they really say what they are. If our mind is not on the job, we make a mistake, and I have a big thing about wasted energy, wasted time, duplication of effort. It's all taps into inefficiency, which costs, whether it be financially, brand, reputation, more effort, people are doing things twice, thrice, more. And as you say, when that eats into the bottom line, it's a very interesting point.
We have to be careful that we measure the right things, and productivity in one way or another could be a good measure.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember, what have we done differently? And then make sure you don't put too many initiatives in place, because then you don't know which one is actually contributing to the performance improvement or deterioration. So have some initiatives towards good mental health in the business, and then see how is that affecting us. Are we all of a sudden seeing fewer people wanting to resign? Are people staying longer? Do we have fewer demands for pay rises all of a sudden? Do we have a queue of candidates who want to work with us? Speculative CVs coming in all the time. Are people recommending us? What do people talk about in the pub, on social media? Is this a good place to work? And if it is a good place to work, it is typically a lot easier to manage. And you have less conflict. Managers spend less time on resolving conflict, and there's probably more initiative, generally just more oomph. People don't go off with bad back, headache, migraine, flu, whatever the names are for, in effect, stress.
Definitely. And that taps into a phrase that my first ever boss many years ago used, and I've unadulterated adopted it myself, that a happy crew is a productive crew. How you define happiness, that's up to each individual. But a happy crew is a productive crew. Innovation, creativity, less mistakes, because they're working at their best. You talk about people leaving. Now, the latest Deloitte report, I'll have the figures in front of me here, they call it the Great Resignation, but 28% of employees have either left in 2021 or are planning to leave their jobs in 2022. And 61% cite that poor mental health as the reason they are leaving. So, that's quite a shocking figure. And then you wrap that into the point you made about, if you have an organisation or any employer that emphasises, their people are okay. Let's not talk about it in terms of mental health terms, but they're okay. They're doing well. They perform. Then you get a reputation as a good place to work. People want to come and work for you. You can attract, retain, and engage great talent. Less costs because the staff turnover. Less workplace adjustments for those that are off sick and headaches and worse. So you can see the actual financial benefits, but moreover, the well-being, the okay, the happiness, whatever you want to call it, of your employees. It just makes sense.
It does make sense, and it is also so counterintuitive, because I think there's a whole generation or generations of people out there having grown up in the business environment, knowing that to get more from people, you just ask them to do more. You cut people out, and then you ask those who are left to do more and more and more. And carrot and stick, it both work up to a point, but you need to get to a point where people actually want to work for you because they like working for you, not because they have to, and it's just a paycheck at the end of the day. So the more you trust people, the more you do just the basics that cost nothing. So trust costs nothing. Empathy costs nothing. Compassion costs nothing. But but it doesn't cost anything financially. But what it does cost is you have to slaughter maybe a few sacred cows. You may have to change your opinion about people. You may have to reduce your ego a little bit if you're at the top, swallow some pride. But the benefits will come. And the big problem I see in business, and it's been going on for a long time, is short-termism. We want instant gratification. We want the wins now. So if I invest in something now, I want a defined and promised ROI in preferably no more than a year. With investing in employee, or just to say people health and well-being in a company, it is a financial cost up front, where you do not get the benefits of, I think the ratio is every pound you invest, you get about £5 back.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
But it doesn't come in the form of a payment into your account. Nobody turns up with a big check and say, hey, there you go.
Exactly.
It comes through cost. It comes through the longer term cost avoidance. You don't have to do as much recruitment. You retain your client. You may even get more. So the benefits are coming in different ways, and we have to then sit down and, I think, forget about the global statistics and then just look at our own local organization statistics. What are we doing? What is it looking like at the moment? Let's find that starting point, make some changes, and then see what happens.
I think also, bringing it down to that sort of grassroots level, for want of a better phrase, when you're working in a team, it's knowing your own self. Am I okay today? Raising our awareness to me. Am I okay today? Am I feeling okay? Am I having a bad day? What are my signs that, as you said there, workplace adjustments, carrot and stick, people then start to get stressed. That culture of fear can sometimes creep in. Pressures and resentments can even build.
Big time.
Someone has to step in. The stress on managers having to organise that workload because they've got targets to meet as well. Whereas if we just sort of step back a bit and we all take a responsibility to look after ourselves, spot my signs, spot them in my team, having those conversations, people speaking up earlier, so those things can be caught earlier and looked at earlier. So we stay more in the green, so to speak, the thriving end of the mental health spectrum, rather than wait till we're in crisis and then up again. Let's catch it a lot earlier. That takes time, and that does. Sometimes us putting aside our own stuff and looking out for my team or your team, spotting that signs, having those conversations, and that takes time. But the rewards are huge, and it's not always in financial. It's less stress, less pressure, getting things done quicker, great reputations. Clients are happy with your work. You keep clients. I can go on.
Which employer wouldn't want to have the people they employ actually working instead of paying for them being off sick? So there is a huge benefit in looking after your employees, regardless of where they are in the hierarchy. And there is a massive financial risk to the business of not doing it. But before that financial risk happens, there has already been a lot of human suffering that leads up to those financial disasters. And I think on that cheery note, maybe it's time to top up the coffee, have another break some other time, and just say thank you for staying with us for the duration of this conversation. And we hope to see you again at some other time. Take care. Bye for now.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.